Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of What's On Today, a program put on by the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I am Karen Pena, and I'm your host for today, sitting in for Mr. Hayden Hughes this morning. With all that's happening around the world today in reference to the coronavirus, even on our island, with our borders being closed and some folks from the hospitality industry not working, America being hit so hard with the coronavirus, and now with the racist situation, most of our tourists come from America, and tourism is our island's main industry. Folks are scared, stressed, and very much unsure of what the future holds for Anguilla and around the world. So we thought it best to have a professional to advise us the best way forward and give us some hope for the future. This morning we have in the studio with us Mr. Louis Bryce. He is a personal trainer, fitness instructor, massage therapist, motivational speaker, and wellness coach. Mr. Price, welcome to What's On Today.
Thank you. It is a pleasure and privilege to be here. I welcome the opportunity to share techniques and perceptional outlooks that will empower and enhance your listening public.
Right. That's a lot of hats that you wear on that head of yours.
There's a common denominator is wellness, which is basically physical and emotional positive empowerment. So all of those actually fall into the one category. Because, it's a blessing when a man knows what he's born for.
That's true.
And what I've been born to do, my spiritual work, is to motivate, educate, and enhance my fellow man's awareness of their temple or body so they can do their God-given purpose.
Okay. Tell our listeners what led to your professional journey and which one of your profession came first and how did one lead to the other?
That is a good question. And the story is not what people are going to think to hear. What it really is reading is important because sometimes you can read a single sentence that will change your life. And at the time, I was working completely unrelated area in a well-paying job that basically I didn't like. And I was reading a book on meditation and it said everybody meditates. And what it did was it showed that there's 24 hours in a day. Out of those 24 hours, 8 of them you sleep. That leaves you 16 waking hours.
Right.
If you think about it, if you work, the average job is 8 hours a day. So that means half of your waking hours are involved with work.
Right.
They said your meditation is whatever you feel about your job.
About
Because
your job.
that's the one that you're going to be resonating and thinking on the most.
Right.
The most of your thoughts are going to be whatever you're resonating on your job.
Right.
They said the best thing you can do is follow your bliss. And the next sentence said, following your bliss is to do whatever you're doing for no money. Because it means you love doing it. So I looked at what do I love doing? Because I didn't like my job. And when I looked at what I like doing, I like exercising. So I said, I could see that, personal trainer. But then through a hobby of mine, which was martial arts, I had been exposed to something called shiatsu, which was a Japanese massage therapy technique to enhance the workouts we were getting were so hard that our bodies were hurting here, hurting there. And then the Japanese instructors would show us shiatsu. And I seemed to have a bit of an innate talent for it. People would say, Louis, I don't know what you did, but the shoulders stopped hurting. Louis, my knee's better. So even when we got back from these camps, I was still doing 3 to 5 a week.
Okay.
But I never got paid for it. I didn't even know anybody got paid. I never had a professional massage. But I thought to myself, well, Louis, you do massage. I said, nobody gets paid for massage. I don't. I never heard of it. So I went and took back in Canada then, we're talking 30 years ago. Back in Canada then, there was only 3 schools recognized by the Canadian government in the whole of Canada. Now, there's 30 just in Ontario. But back then, most people didn't know anything about massage. So I actually went and got a professional massage, went to one of the schools, and that started my journey, which ended with me being in Anguilla. Because it was a client that was up in Canada that owned a hotel here that said, Louis, I don't know what you did, but my neck's fixed. If you come down to Anguilla, I'd never even heard of the place. I was like, you mean Antigua? They're like, no, Anguilla. I mean, Angola?
Yeah.
No.
Most
Actually,
people say
I
Angola.
hadn't even heard of it. I was up in Canada on Ottawa.
Oh.
And that led to coming down here, falling in love with the place, and the rest is history. But it was from following your bliss and doing what you love to do
Right.
that you will excel at it, because every day going to work is easy. For
Right.
example, I run the longest running fitness classes in Anguilla. They've been running for 26 years.
Oh.
I have never missed a day because I was too tired, I forgot, or I was sick.
Never
Because I
missed a
like
day.
to exercise. So that means if I'm off island, I get senior students to cover the classes, but those are the longest running classes in Anguilla because I love what I do, so I never stop. If you love what you do, you're not going to miss work. You're going to enjoy it.
True, true. True, true.
I think that answered your question.
I think it did. It definitely did. Okay, my next question would be, what advice would you give a person on island who are in the hospitality industry? Because as you know, most of the folks that are in the hospitality industry, they have a life apart from that. They have loans, they have mortgages, they have bills to pay, utility bills to pay. And in most cases, some of them, their husband and wife are both maybe in the same industry. So two people at home without an income right now. What advice, and even our borders being closed, what advice would you give someone who may be suffering from anxiety or stress at this point in time in that industry right now, or in any industry?
Well, the first thing is not to take the whole situation lightly, and not to in any way be arbitrary in the awareness that this is a true stressful situation that everybody has found themselves in, including myself.
Right.
Now, the one thing that we've got to look at with wisdom is that this is not the time to get sick. This is not the time to have to add to all those stresses with medical bills. And medical bills will come if the stress gets out of hand, because it's going to affect blood pressure, cholesterol level, diabetes. It's going to increase tensions in the body, resulting in increased back pain and shoulder pain. And when those get high enough and bad enough, whether we can afford it or not, we go into the doctor because we want relief, at least symptomatic relief.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing is to look at it that whatever is going on, it cannot affect us physically to the level that we deteriorate to, because then it's a battle not only on the economic front and not only on the social front, but now it's on the physical front. So this is where I come in, because I am not in any way going to even slightly say that it's not a traumatic, trying time. It is, and you do have a right to feel stressed and unhappy with the situation. Yet I would like to switch your perceptual outlook, because if I can switch the way you perceptually are looking at this situation, it's going to put you in a more empowered state to find resourceful solutions and to stay in a healthy manner despite these adversities and challenges. So the first thing, I'm going to tell a simple story because I want to express something that goes on with the brain. There was a terrible train accident in a state in the US, and hundreds were killed in it, and there were only 3 survivors. A TV station decided a year later to do a little documentary on what happened to the 3 survivors. They went to the first one and they asked them, what was the impact of this terrible accident that you went through? The man said, it was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. He said, because of it, I woke up with nightmares, I drank too heavy, I was taking drugs to help me sleep, I've lost so many jobs, I'm now addicted to the drugs I was taking, and I can't hold a job down, so that because I've a drug problem, they've keeping me away from my children, my wife has divorced me. It turned my life upside down and has been the reason that I have a disempowered, miserable life. They understood, they sympathized, they went to the next one. He said, this is going to sound strange to you, but it was a turning point in my life for the better. They said, how could you say that? They said, well, I had to ask myself a very hard question. Why was I one of only 3 survivors? And the solution I decided was that God must have something special for me in my life, that so many died and I lived. He said, I turned my life around. Since that, I've had 3 promotions on the job. I get along very well with my wife and family, better than any other time in my life. And also, what has happened is I've been awarded Citizen of the Year for the social impact that I've had on the city that I live. I can honestly say that that accident turned my life around for the better. They were kind of surprised, but they saw his point. They went to the third gentleman. They said, what was the impact on your life? He said, what accident? They said, how could you say what accident? It was one of the worst accidents in the history of the state.
Wow.
He said, wait. He said, as he remembered. It took him a few minutes before explaining the time and the year. And he said, oh, I remember that. He said, hey, I was just coming back from 5 years of war. I'm a professional soldier. For me, I brushed the glass and rubble off myself, put my nut back on my shoulder, and kept on heading home. To me, it was just another day in the war. And the things that I had to get out of my head were a lot worse memories than a train accident. I can honestly say I didn't even think of it again.
Wow.
The nightmares I get over some of the things I saw and did in the 5 years of that war.
So is it that you're saying, so it's one's perspective on how we view life, on how we take the situation, that we may be able to deal with it differently?
I want to tell you an interesting variable about the brain that I know. I take my work as a wellness encourager and motivator quite seriously, so I've done a lot of research. Listen to this interesting fact about the human brain. Every minute, your subconscious mind is taking in 10,000 bits of information. Out of that, it's only going to allow 3 to get up to your conscious mind. Now, those are only going to be in how you've already decided to see the world. That's called a construct. Your brain has a construct of how it sees its life and position in life. Now, what that means is, we've heard of autistic children. They have no construct. All of that 10,000 bits of information is coming up. That's why they have to, anxiety, etc. They're getting information overload.
Yeah.
So the brain doesn't want that to happen to us. So it only allows 3,000 of this 10,000. That means there's 7,000 other potential solutions and ideas that we're not even consciously going to think about. So if a person has a negative outlook on something, they're only going to get 3,000 bits up that reinforce that negative outlook. So we have to be very careful. What are we perceiving as reality? Our perceptional outlook is a choice. That's why you cannot fault a person if they see everything negative in a day. If they see what's wrong with the room, what's wrong with everybody they meet, what's wrong with themselves, what's wrong with the country, what's wrong with the world, you cannot fault them because their 3,000 bits of information are all reinforcing their perceptional outlook. However, somebody else could have another 3,000 variables that are resulting in a construct that is very positive and dynamic. When they meet people, they see what they like about them, they see what they like about the room, and the list goes on. They're right too, because they're backing it up with the information they are seeing.
Right.
The interesting thing is, there's a totally different outlook to those two people. One is miserable in sin, and the other one is happy and joyful.
Right.
But they both are correct. So what that means is, if you're in a disempowered state because you're feeling negative and seeing everything negative, it's very hard to get motivated to find solutions to challenges. Because a part of you will say, what's the point? There is none. That's a construct of your brain. Your brain in your life, and listen carefully with your spiritual ear, listener. Your brain's only got 2 choices. It's either going to look at working for you or against you. If you're miserable and you're unhappy, your brain is working against you. And there were just as many things to find out and look for that would have put you in a joyful, empowered mode. Now people say, well, Louis, it's too late. I'm already miserable and I already can't help but see everything that's wrong with the world, my family, my spouse, myself, and everything else. Well, I have some tools to help you. The first thing that we've got to accept is that stress is part of life.
True.
As far as the human body is concerned, when you're 6 feet under, no stress in the grave. So the fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
and I'm not even being facetious with this, I'm quite pragmatically sure of it. So the fact is that if you're on the right side of the dirt, stress is part of that action. While you're alive, stress is going to be part of it. When I was younger and more optimistic and positive, I believed I could live a stress-free life. I have now, at 65, I have learned it is not true.
65?
Stress is part of the human condition. If that's true, now we've got to look at then, if this is going to be with me forever, what exactly is it? The best definition I've heard for stress is a complex mix of physical, emotional, which is your mind, and behavioral, which is the way you act, responses. Now, if that's true, then a lot of what's going on with us physically, a lot of our behaviors, a lot of the way we think and feel, has to do with stress levels. Now, if a person's energy level is only at 5 out of a possible 10, and they have stress at a level of 4, then stress is overwhelming. It's wearing them down. They will guarantee to be exhausted and miserable. The skill set is to make sure that your energy level is at an 8 out of 10. If we can increase your energy level, then you still got the same 4 out of 10 stress, but it's manageable. You can manage it. It's bearable. You can keep joy and peace and happiness in your life. So that means the most important thing, reader and listener, that I can do with you now is to show you how to enhance your energy levels and empower yourself so that you still will have the same stresses, but you will not be getting overwhelmed with them, because you now will have trained your brain and body how to maximize your own wellness, your own happiness, and your own joy. Are you with me, listeners? Have you gone and got your pen and paper? Because I'm going to tell you an interesting thing about the brain. It doesn't like to grow, and it doesn't like to change. The first thing it will make you do is forget this conversation and what the knowledge was that you got here. So write it down so you can reinforce it by reading your notes every day and implementing them. To have the theory of something without actual change doesn't count. There are professors, and once we know a person is through academic excellence has become a professor, we know that they are an expert in their field. But I'll tell you an interesting thing. There are experts as to why you should never eat animal protein. There are experts like the Atkins diet, why you should eat high animal protein. There are experts on why you should be a vegetarian. There are experts on why you should not be a vegetarian. There are experts on everything with opposite views on every subject under the sun. So at the end of the day, the only new knowledge that you have is that which you are able to incorporate into your life with some kind of new behavior. Your situation will not change from the misery or stress of today until you incorporate something into it that you haven't already done. A change comes when you do something that you haven't already done. So I'm going to list a whole bunch of different techniques that you can incorporate. Your job is to take some of them and make them your own. Are you with me, listener? I heard that. That was a profound yes, right?
Right.
Okay. So what we talked about is, it's not avoiding stress. We've already acknowledged that it is part of the human condition. But we can tell when it's too high because we're miserable, we're unhappy, and there's a deterioration in our health. Because if you have stress, it creates fight or flight mode in the body, which is a stimulation through the whole system that makes your heart beat faster, pant breathing, contracture of your blood vessels. It causes a lot of challenges. So we have to stimulate the opposite condition, which is called rest and digest. Without getting too technical, I just want you to think that there's a system in the nervous system, autonomic nervous system, the one you don't have control over, that will lower blood pressure, will lower the fight and flight response. And what they found is that 75% of it is controlled by one nerve. Write down this, vagus, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, in Latin means the wanderer. And they call it that because the vagus nerve actually wanders through a variety of places in the body. It controls the throat. It affects the ear. It affects the digestive tract. It affects respiratory, breathing. So these areas that you would think have nothing to do with each other can all be affected by your stress levels or your rest and digest levels by the vagus nerve. So now we're going to we're not looking at the stresses. We already know what those are. It's a global pandemic and the economic challenges that it has created globally. We already know what the stresses are. Our job is to look at how do we fight back so that we don't go to the next level of sickness. And doctors' bills, they're overworked now. Most of them, the rates have gone up. So this is not the time to get sick.
True.
So one of the things is we have to look at what will stimulate the rest and digest system. One of the easiest, believe it or not, is exercise, physical exercise. People are like, I can't afford to go to the gym. You don't need to go to the gym. And if the global pandemic comes here, the gym's going to be closed anyway. So I don't want you to justify whether you can or can get to the gym. What you've got to look to instead is that your body needs cardiovascular activity 3 times a week. One of the byproducts of it that most people aren't aware is it increases your energy. And if it can increase your energy, then you're actually going to have more energy to deal with the challenges and stresses that surround you daily. Now, one of the things that people have to be aware of is when you were working and you were too busy and you were tired from work, there were many things that you said you would do if you weren't working. Right. You said you would do them. Now you got the time to do them, but you say you're too stressed and tired from stress to do them. Some of you were going to do gardening. Some of you were going to read books that you had on the shelf getting dust, but didn't have time to get to. Some of you were going to get back to getting in the ocean regularly and swimming.
Right.
You had this big list of what you were going to do, but work was being taken too much time. So now, what I want you to be aware of, that time has been created. There should be 3 things that you weren't doing before that you are able to do now because of the coronavirus. You're going to look at what blessing did it bring you. Yeah, I know. That's the old construct of your mind. It didn't bring you any blessing. It just brought you trouble. But if you switch that construct, which is the 3,000 bits that you're allowing up to your brain, and realize there are 7,000 other infinite possibilities and potentials that you could use to enhance your way of looking at solutions in your life for various challenges. If you have a negative outlook, you won't even begin to look for any, because you will simply say there are none.
Right.
If you switch it, you will find that you will be able to find other solutions. So, if you go walking, I didn't say every day, because I don't actually think that's good for you. When's your body supposed to have a break and rest so that it can upgrade? So I say not more than 4 times a week, because there's a balance of 3 S's: stretch, strength, stamina. If you're doing stamina, which is cardiovascular, every day, you're probably not doing the other 2. So we want a balance in the 3 areas. So I recommend to people no more than 4 times a week for cardio, and with a day of rest in between so your body gets to recover. Also that one of the 3 is something different, usually the one in the middle. So I'm saying to people, you could go walking Monday and Friday, and Wednesday you go swimming or cycling, or vice versa. You could mix it up, whichever the one is that you prefer. Right. But so the middle one is different so that your body has a chance to rest and upgrade. And that you time yourself so you know how far you went and how long it took you. Because then you don't have to, you want a route that takes you a minimum of 30 minutes. I do not recommend more than 45 minutes. If you're doing 2 hours, you're overworking your joints, and all that's going to do is give you knee trouble or back trouble. Nobody told you to overdo it. If you're saying because that's the way you're getting rid of your stress, do a balanced program, not a fanatical program. The balanced program is that you will actually then go to looking at stretching. Now, an interesting thing with the human body is when you're stressed, your body tightens up. So you have to be aware of that your body is going to tighten up and contract. Haven't you noticed that since this all happened, you got more aches and pains? Well, part of those aches and pains is your muscles tightening up to protect you. Because as far as it's concerned, if it can contract up and defend you, you won't feel the blows. But it's not physical, it's emotional. And let me tell you an interesting thing. Your brain doesn't know the difference between emotional stress and physical contracture. So one man could be swinging a pick on a work site, a construction site all day. His body gonna ache and be tight by the end of the day. The other man is in front of a computer watching all the stocks globally go down and him losing people's money. And he gonna be just as tight by the end of the day as the man swinging the pick.
Wow.
Because the brain doesn't know the difference. So the emotional stress that you are feeling and taking on too much is going to affect your body by tightening it up. So stretching becomes very important. Now most people, if they're too tight, by the time the morning comes, they got to stretch if they want to get out of bed. So a lot of people do loosen up in the morning. But as soon as you deal with the stresses of the day, you're going to go right back to your usual holding pattern of tension. Listener, listen with your spiritual ear. The most important time to stretch is before you go to bed. Because if you go to bed all contracted and tight from another unhappy day under the global pandemic, then you will find that while you're sleeping, your body's still working because it's still tight. It may go from a 90% contracture to a 50% because you had a hot shower while you cry yourself to sleep. But the fact is your body was still tight. You wake up in the morning, it's been working all night. It hurt more than before you went to sleep.
Wow.
How many times has that happened, listener? A lot, right?
Right.
You have to turn it off before you go to bed. And you do stretch the area that gives you the most tension in the morning for a minimum of 30 seconds. I didn't say 10. I said 30 seconds. And a slow count, not an auctioneer's count. So you do it once, and that will help to alleviate tension. You also rub your feet. Been on them all day worrying. Lay on your bed, put one foot up so you can get to those feet, and loosen them up. Those nerve endings go all the way through your body to your brain. So you cover everything when you loosen those feet up. That's why reflexology works. So you loosen up those feet, and you're going to find it will rest you, and you'll sleep better. Another thing is we have to, in a way, retrain our brain because we want to get other constructs up to the brain, that other variables from the 7,000 that are in the subconscious that we can't access because we're already negatively programmed. One of the ways to do that is with an old Japanese idea. It's called a Muga moment, M-U-G-A. Now, a Muga moment means that you have to train your brain to start paying attention for the blessings and good of your day. So one of the ways to do that is to actually begin to look at, it could be drinking a glass of water, because some people are going to say, there's nothing to look forward to, look good in my day. That's their 3,000 negative constructs creating their perceptional outlook in a negative way. Let me help you. You take a glass of water, you hold it, and you start to tick off your senses. Because when you are negatively programmed, all your senses see what's wrong with everything. So we have to retrain our brain. So you then say, what am I smelling? You may smell cream on your hand, or if you're in the kitchen where you got the water, the smell of cooking in the room. You're checking what you smell. You say, what am I hearing? You may hear the fan moving overhead. You may hear other people talking in other rooms. You're paying attention. You're ticking off your sense. You say, what am I feeling? You may feel the shirt on your back, the shoes on your feet, the pressure of your hand on the glass. What am I seeing? You see the bubbles from where you poured in the water. You see the magnification of your fingerprints through the side of the glass. You see the water. You drink it. You say, what am I tasting? You are starting to train your brain to pay attention to the present moment. Because most things that we worry about haven't happened yet. We have projected our brain into the future. And if you do that, you could eat a perfectly enjoyable meal, remember what happened to you when you was 12, and be angry and upset while you think those thoughts, which will stress your body. And when your body is stressed, it shuts down the stomach. Because as far as it's concerned, it needs rest. It needs blood to your hands and feet for fight or flight response. So if you are stressed, you never can digest your food properly. That's why you get acid reflux and flatulence and all these variables, because you're stressed, so your stomach won't let you digest food. It wants the blood into your arms and legs, not the digestive tract. As far as it's concerned, when you're stressed, it's not a time to eat. So what that means is you can eat a perfectly good meal, be worrying or angry or upset about something in the past or the future. So in the past is remembering the past. In the future is futurizing. So you're looking at the future, but you're missing the present. The thing that you're going to have the most control over is what the present moment. Listener, the point of power is the present moment. As an adult, you do have to plan ahead and you do have to learn from the past, but that is not where your focus is to be. But if you're not careful, your brain can be trained so it only remembers the past mostly, or it only looks to the future mostly. The one you get to control is putting it now. So you're training your senses to pay attention to what you're doing. When I first learned this technique, which was over 40 years, I couldn't do 3. I wasn't paying attention to the good of the day. So I didn't notice it. I was doing busy, running like a headless chicken and not noticing anything good that happened today. Reader, listener, now I do on an average 20 to 30 of paying attention through the day. Now, it doesn't really matter if anything hasn't changed in my life. Just by me paying attention to the pleasures of the day, my quality of life has gone up. So what I do is each day, and I do it with my wife Jane, we tell each other what were the joy moments of the previous day. And some of them are very simple. A hot shower, the first cup of tea in the morning, enjoying the meal, greeting a friend, looking at the sunset. You look at things that are looking at your healthy children, reading a good book. You look for things today that are enhancing you. And it goes all the way to some simple things that we take for granted. If you got both legs, if you got both arms, that is not to be taken for granted.
Amen.
There's people no worse than you and I that are getting something amputated today. They would love to have your leg, whether it's skinny or it's fleshy. They will be delighted to have any leg not being cut off today.
True.
So there's lots of things that we take for granted. We're not paying attention. If you start paying attention to the fact that 3/4 of the world is drinking polluted water, when you get clean, fresh, bottled water, if you didn't take that for granted and you just thought, God, thank you for me being born in a place where I could just drink clean, fresh water, then you already can count that as a joy moment for the day. If you haven't heard gunfire or explosions any time for the week, there's places where from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, they're in a country at war. And there's people dying around them. They're used to seeing dead bodies in the street. I mean, I'm not talking this to just sound dramatic. At least half the world at any given day is under war. So you've got to look at it that if you wake up with somewhere, you live in a part of the world where the average northerner, if they come here, comes for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and is going to chat about it all year, about their holiday and vacation in Anguilla.
That's true.
This is your backyard.
True.
After the fitness class with 25 students this morning at 5:30, We went down to the sea and we did ocean therapy for 15 minutes of stretching in the water. And after having lived up north in England, London, one of the busiest cities in the world, and Ottawa, Canada, I know the difference of having lived in two different cultures. And to end my busy work week with a dip in the ocean in the morning, relaxing while I stretch comfortably, you're right, that was a Muga moment. That was a joy moment.
It's a blessing.
So there are blessings under your feet and above your head with sunshine and joyous people and peaceful people that are not in other places. There was a time we were one of only 3 spots on the whole planet that had no coronavirus. So that you say that you have no Muga moments is because you're not paying attention. If you switch that negative outlook and start looking at what is going on well with you, you suddenly realize there's people no worse than you and I that have excruciating pain in their body that they can't lift their head off of the sick pillow. You had enough strength to get up and grumble, so you're already ahead of them.
Right.
So you have to start looking at what is the right thing. I got the announcer laughing. But it's true. It isn't as bad as you are saying.
It's true.
There are blessings underfoot, but not if you don't notice. But if you don't notice, the quality of your life will be worse.
And I mean, not to interrupt you.
Yes, you interject when you want. I don't look at it interruption. I call them interjections.
Okay.
And I like them.
Thanks. You know, as you mention all of that, I must say here that we who live here in Anguilla, even up to date, we are so blessed because,
Yes.
I mean, right next door in St. Martin, there are so
Yes.
many cases. We had 3 cases. It could have been 3 multiplied by 3 or maybe 100, you know, but we have been so blessed that those 3 cases, thank God, they were healed. There was no death. And even while we were in quote-unquote lockdown, we could have still gone to our supermarkets from East End to West End. We could have still walked on the beach, dip in the water like you said. You know, we were enjoying, as the Joyce Meyer may say, everyday life, you know, one day at a time. While most folks, because I think in St. Martin their lockdown was quite severe and it came at an abrupt time, whereas ours weren't. And we have enjoyed, it was like we never had the virus.
She is 100% right, but you can already tell. She's bound to have some joy in her day. Not because she doesn't have economic and global stress from what is going on, but because her brain is trained to look for the good in situations. So she's just going to have a more joyful outlook. Now, one of the things, if you already know that you're a hardcore negative, that everything out of your mouth ends on a negative note, and I'm not being facetious with this, because once the brain's trained, it carries on whether you want it to or not. You even want to be happy, but before you know it, it's talking everything negative. This is the way to train it out of yourself. Because what you have to do is you end on a positive note. That means when you catch yourself and you have just said a real empowering, negative, powerful thing, just say, however, it could get better. Or however, we do know that the hotels could open earlier than we expect. You end on a positive note. Now, another thing to look at is that with this awareness of stress, what we really talked about from a physical viewpoint is that there's a tendency with people, like a lot of people are going to say that the reason they gained weight because there was nothing to do, so they were trying out the new recipes. And there was nothing to do but to eat whether the recipe worked or not. So one of the things, a lot of people are going to use this as a justification for gaining weight. Now, I look for results in dealing with my clientele. And one of the things that I found is something called intermittent fasting, which you can find free under YouTube. The 2 people that I feel have the most knowledge are one, a Dr. Berg, B-E-R-G, Dr. Berg. He has a lot of short 20-minute chats, and he will teach you about it. And the other one, his are longer, they're about an hour. But they are Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G. And both of these individuals give you a lot of information as to why it makes more sense to eat twice a day. You don't need the 3. Yeah, the 3 is because you like 3. But if you check, you're not hungry all 3.
But we've been trained by our brain from our ancestors, our parents, parents, that you must eat 3 meals a day, which is breakfast, lunch, dinner.
It's true. But how many times did you wake up and not be hungry, but you felt you should eat because breakfast is the most important meal of the day? And that's what the food industry has been telling you as they sell you Kellogg's, corn, like cereals and all the rest. I'm not going to get into a big debate on it because I just want you to be aware that if you actually analyze your body and check how you feel, you should find that you could eat 2 big meals, but you should find if you do 2 big meals, you're not going to need the 3rd one. And the other thing with it is the body doesn't know the difference between being thirsty and hungry. In both cases, it gives the signal for being hungry. So sometimes when you think you're hungry, drink some water and it will just go. By the time you're actually thirsty, you're dehydrated.
Yeah.
So the signal fires off for thirst or hungry with the same signal, hungry. So before you go snacking, drink water and see if it doesn't just vanish.
Mr. Price, you are giving us so much knowledge. I feel like I just want to be in your class next session.
5:30 on Friday. You're welcome. No charge. Bring a towel and a bottle of water. It's 1 hour.
Okay.
On Monday.
Have your did you have an increase in person wanting your service on a one-on-one basis as a fitness instructor now, this time of COVID?
I'll tell you an interesting thing with that. I've been flown out of the country 10 times. All of them were by billionaires who only want the best. So they only want the best. So if they want the best, they'll pay for it. So they send me a ticket. They're like, Price, get out here. So I've been flown various places around the world that I would have never visit because they're too expensive. And they pay me for no more than 6 hours work.
Wow.
And they do it because they want the knowledge out of my head. They want to pick my brains. So I'm aware that the God-given knowledge that I have to do with wellness, which is only 2 areas. It's physical and emotional. Because people like to separate the 2. So what happens is, I deliberately do the classes at 5:30 so that I can get the local populace to share the knowledge out of my head. So they don't need personal training. They could come. Most of my personal training people that don't like crowds, so they want personal touch. But you could get the same knowledge in a group session where you come, like there was 25 there this morning. I keep stressing that because they got out of their bed and they got to the gym for 5:30. I start 5:35 and it's for 1 hour. I don't mind if people are late and I don't mind if they leave early.
So when we do aerobic, what do you do aerobic?
No, I balance it with what I tell you. So we do half an hour of high and low impact. Because I have people the oldest in my class this morning was 78.
Wow.
And the youngest was 18.
Okay.
So that means I got 3 different levels going in the class.
So next Friday I'm in, okay?
No, next Monday. I have to, you mean on Monday? Monday. Come on,
I
Monday.
thought you said come Friday.
I did, but that's because I was getting ahead of myself. or behind, one of the 2. But the point is that what I want to be aware of is that, so there's not really, if you come to the classes 3 times a week, you'll need your notebooks and you'll take notes, and it will be a balance between stretch, strength, and stamina, all done within the hour. And to balance, you bring a towel and a bottle of water. Say you heard me on the radio station and say you ain't paying for a week. And even if you pay, it's $30. If you work that out, that's $2.50. If that's going to keep you out of the doctor's office, I've had people tell me that in one doctor's visit, by the time they did the CAT scan, they paid more for one visit than they paid for a year of gym fees. So it's better to do the gym fees and don't go to the doctor. Do prevention, not cure. Go ahead.
So would you say that diet and exercise plays an important part in helping us with anxiety at this time?
one of the things, nobody's told me this, but with my study of the vagus nerve, one of the things I realized is it controls swallowing. So when people want to calm themselves down, they eat. It's not even the food. It's the act of swallowing. So drink water instead, because then it'll just micturate out of you. But it's swallowing. So people eat for comfort. All they know is it calms them down.
Yes.
It's the swallowing.
So drink water.
Drink water, yeah. And
some people take alcohol.
well, it's the same thing, swallowing. Although another thing I have with that is that, what do we do with babies when they're misbehaving or screeching too much with teething? We put the bottle in their mouth. So when big men don't want to grow up, they put the bottle in their mouth, feeling sorry for themselves.
That's a good one.
I don't even mean it as a joke. Some behaviors are from childhood.
Right.
And we are conditioned reflex with them. You make a change when you do something you haven't already done.
Right.
And so I really want you to be aware of ending on a positive note. De-stress yourself with cardio 3 times a week. Stretch at night before you go to bed. Eat twice a day, but make them bigger. But then, because really it's your insulin levels being pumped up every time you snack and eat. So you're going to gain way more weight with 4 little meals than you would with 2 big.
But you know, it was so interesting what you said, because in my, to my knowledge, you always stretch after you do exercise, like maybe you do walk or you do aerobics and whatnot, so that you don't get, like you say, the soreness. But it was quite interesting that you say that after work, in a maybe stressful day, it's good for you to stretch. So how do we, what areas would you stretch? Because you know, some of us might be sitting in front of a computer, some of us might be doing the physical work, because like you draw the analogy with the guy with the sledgehammer and the guy in front of the computer. So what stretches can you advise us to do in that case?
See, that's a very wise question. One of the things is, to be clear, what I really was addressing was the people that aren't doing any stretching. They're not doing any.
Oh.
If you already, you know,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
No. If you already have an exercise regime,
right.
Because I make mine stretch, and also for my own self, strength work is important, because the wear and tear of the human body you can't prevent. You've got 14.7 pounds of square inch pressure from gravity all the days of your life pressing on you.
Right.
So the cartilage between every joint, that's why people get shorter over the years. It's getting compressed. It's getting cracked. That's why your knees will get stiff. Your shoulders will ache. So me, I ain't got none of that, because 3 times a week I in the gym strength training, because when you have a faulty mast, you strengthen the rigging. The muscles overlapping the joints, they can help you maintain the integrity of the joint. The joint is getting worn. So that means when you strength train, between every set, I stretch.
Okay.
I stretch the area that I just worked. But for those that haven't done any stretching, what it is, stretching at night will be the most important one. And the areas to do are both ends of the spine. So that means you roll your shoulders and stretch your neck, but you hold it 30 seconds, your ear to your shoulder.
Right.
30 seconds, your chin over your shoulder. That gets your neck. Then you lay on your bed, move the pillow so your spine is straight. Lift your knee up to your armpit, roll your ankle. What do you mean it won't go to your armpit? Well, as high as it will go. And then you lift the knee up and you pull the leg over to the other side.
Right.
So that you can get a stretch through your lower back. Lots of times you'll hear a little clicking. Don't think you need the paramedics. Just hold it for the 30 seconds and let it loosen. Now, as you can see, I could chat all day on this area. So just in case anything else is wanted to be said, I will shut down. So
no,
that
you go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah. Well, I would like to ask another question. My question would be now too is that, you know, we are considered blessed because we are, quote unquote again, COVID free at the moment. We are being told that we may have to live with COVID-19 for the next year, or until there is a vaccine, that a vaccine is created. So what are some things that we need to consider as we look forward to our borders reopening and remaining stress-free?
I look for solutions. So one of the solutions that people aren't aware of is that, do you remember how I said that to stimulate the vagus nerve, there are certain activities? One of them, whether people like it or not, is that I found that church services incorporate a lot of them. Rhythmic movement, relaxed breathing, nice smells, singing. These affect the throat. These are a lot of things are built into church services. So if you go to church, while you can, or even do it online, don't just sit and watch it. Actually stand on your feet and sing to the songs and move your body. You're stimulating your vagus nerve, and it is a calmative effect on your whole system. Another one is the actual pandemic. It's a respiratory challenge, pathology. So one of the things with that is it makes sense to start increasing your lung capacity. 25 deep breaths a day, where you hold them as deeply as you can, will enhance your lung capacity. You can do them in sets of 5. I know when you're getting dizzy. You can spread them through the day, but you want that in a day, you look back 25 times you did deep breaths. The other thing is that when you do your ocean therapy in the sea, that's a good place to stretch. The natural unpolluted waters here have a calmative effect on your emotional nature. Your emotions are affecting you physically. So the calmer you can put yourself, prayer. People like to sneer, but prayer where you actually turn to whatever you've decided the Almighty is, and you tap that area, will calm you down. These are things that you didn't have time for. You didn't have time for prayer because you had to rush off. But the fact is, you can calm yourself down and start being a little more introspective with looking at what things for you will make you have some joy today. Because the more empowered state you're in, the more positive state you're in, the more resourceful you're going to be in for finding solutions.
Okay. And just 2 questions more before we close. This is a personal one. How would you define yourself as a wellness coach, motivational speaker, and fitness instructor? Because, there are so many of your kinds out there. How do you define yourself?
Well, the fact is, I trust in the Almighty. So the fact is, I have no idea what I'm going to make a week. I really don't. And it's irrelevant because He has never failed me yet. And that's why there's 3 negative feelings that you have to watch. Anger, guilt, and fear. A lot of people are dealing with fear. But most fears are not for today. They're projected into what will happen in the future. And they don't like what they're seeing. And that makes them be unhappy today. A strange thought for you. Time is not linear. It doesn't change later. Time is circular. Tomorrow is already here. To change your future, you have to empower today. So the things that you do today will empower. So I've got lots of work. I'm getting to influence my society and motivate and help people and make sure I'm salt in the earth to encourage and help people realize that there is some choice in having some joy and muga moments today. And then the skill set is at night before you go to bed, instead of worrying and biting your nails, go over what were the good things that did happen the day before. And that's called a gratitude meditation. And when you have gratitude today, it will be in your future. God is a God of miracles, and there are things that are open and doorways that will open and people that owe you money and finally got a conscience and will come and bring it to you. And there will be ways, and it's a chance to plant fruit trees, and you can look for things that will empower yourself today. And that will take care of tomorrow.
Thank you. Just before we close, could you tell our listening audience, because I'm sure most of them will be very much impressed with all that you have said, and maybe somebody might be interested in contacting you, how they might be able to get in touch with you, maybe that they might be able to set up an appointment, maybe your mobile number.
Come to the gym.
Or your email address.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm definitely there from 5 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you come there, whether I'm working or not, interrupt, say you heard on the radio, and I'll give you a free pass for something or other, and we can communicate from there. But you come with your towel and your running shoes at